Welcome, everyone, to the Breaking Stones podcast, first one of 2022, and fittingly taking place on January 22nd of 2022, and a little bit later starts the year than we were hoping for, but what a wild ride it has been already. Coming off my fresh bout with COVID here, I'm your host, Mike Wolf from Delgado Stone, and really excited for what's to come and everything we have going on. And we'll be talking a lot about the show and how we can improve it and different things we're going to do this year. So focus obviously still on Stone, but also we're going to bring in some leadership, some business development to work with our authorized dealers and anyone else interested. Really, obviously, it's about the stone industry, but I think it's going to pertain to a lot more than that as well. So, very excited to get started with that. And man, it's hard to believe that COVID has been 2 years. If you're here in the U.S. or just about 2 years, and it feels like we're, I mean, almost through it. But I think we've all been optimistic and. For us, we brought on a new team member here at Delgado Stone this month, and I look back to 2 years ago when COVID was happening, right? And we brought on a new person in March, and it was our marketing coordinator Noah, and he's got this new job and joins us, and you don't know at the time, but he knew people who had just gotten hired as well, and they lost their job. So he's thinking he's going to lose his job. And so all these things go on. And 2 years later, we're still doing the same thing. And don't worry, this podcast is not going to be about COVID, but it's very much something that I wanted to at least mention because I think we're all over it. Hopefully this Omicron is the final phase, at least for a few months. I think we're all going to have to live with the fact that there's a new virus out there. But it's gone through our team. If you're on the operations and marketing side of things, or very much on the marketing, I'm sorry, very much on the operations side of things, you can't shut down. And we talked about supply chain in previous episodes. In the manufacturing world, shutting down your operations is a huge has a huge impact, and it's very difficult. And we've seen some businesses in our industry actually go out of business because they had to shut down, and it was difficult to start right back up. It's not like a retail side where you open the door and after being closed for a week or a weekend and start right back up. Right, there's a lot that goes into it. So we've been fortunate to keep going through everything, and these past couple of weeks, it was more in the office, and we had people working from home, which we haven't had to really do yet for the most part. But we're here, and we're going, and I don't know, maybe now once you get it, you have those antibodies, and we can all move past it. But hopefully, everyone else is doing well. We know what's going around out there. And if you're in our industry where there is some seasonality, specifically in the Northeast or where there's the winter weather, it's nice that if there's going to be a time to get sick or to have COVID happen, this would be a good time for it because it's January. Excuse me, little remnants there, because it's January and we don't have that full swing. Although I'll tell you what, we're very fortunate that business has not slowed down. It's amazing the amount of material that's being requested, and some of it from last year, continuing projects, but a lot of it to prepare for the new year. It is hard to believe, and there's a conversation I had with a dealer the other day. We were talking. They were talking about salt and winter products, and in their mind, it made sense because we were in January here, and there's colder weather in the Northeast. But I said, salt. Why are you talking about salt? Right now, the focus should be anything related to spring. There are only 57 days until spring, if you can believe that. I think March 20th is the date. 57 days. Very hard to believe that before you know it. And so in meetings with our team, with our dealers, that's really what the focus is on. And you look at some of these there had to be a fundamental change in the ordering process, being more prepared, and knowing that things are going to take longer to get. Maybe they're going to be more expensive, whatever the case is. But here we are, 57 days to spring. So, you're really looking at it and saying, if you have not prepared for that spring day, for that March 20th, March 21st, whatever day would be your quote unquote opening day in your retail business, you are behind. And uh, it's it's significant. I mean, you're looking at 8 weeks, just over 8 weeks um, until you get going and people are at your door and being prepared, having material on the ground. If you're in the stone industry, we know makes all the difference. For us, we've made a commitment to improving our lead times. We've increased our production capacity. We've reduced the number of authorized dealers that we have, and a lot of this, I talked about leadership and business development is something we're going to talk about this year. But our team started. Well, now we're done with it, but we decided to make the investment in something called scaling up, and really interesting. It comes from a book that I read, and I got to give credit to Jim Jacobs down in Pennsylvania there for suggesting it. But the scaling up program, and it really got us to align as a team and everyone moving in the right direction. And so some of the business decisions that we've made were really coming from the conversations we've had and the learning experience we had through the scaling up program, through the Growth Institute. If you're familiar with the Rockefeller habits, and Vern Harnish is the one who started this, but really, really eye opening and great team building. We learned a lot, and but so we started looking at how can we provide better service to our dealers, to our industry as a whole, and that's key. Our industry is not known for service, but we're starting to see that shift, and we've grown our business over 100% in the past 5 years by focusing on service, quality, consistency. All of that ties together for me when I talk about it. But we're starting to see more and more people looking for better service or making a change because of the service they're receiving. And I'll give you an example. A conversation I had last night with our national sales director, JP. He was telling me he had a conversation with someone. They weren't getting a call back from the company that I'm not going to use names here, but from the company that they typically go to. They couldn't get an answer on a lead time, and it's a large landscape material order. And they said, well, do you have any alternatives? Is there, who else can we work with? Well, because on our side, as the manufacturer distributor, not selling direct to the end user. So, we put in a call to that dealer and said, look, you have to give this guy a call back, give him an answer. And if we can help in any way, let us know. We don't want to see someone lose the business for that. There's, I guess, two things that we talk about this year. What got us here won't get us there, right? Won't get you to the next level. That's the first one. And it's got to be that constant improvement. And we're working on that, not just on our end, but in how we can provide that support to our dealers to help them on the service. And kind of our mantra right now is taking care of the little things. Got to take care of the little things. And part of that is production, right? Picking up after yourself, making sure at the end of the day things are shut down and organized to come in the next day and get started. But it's also on the business side. And I think a lot of businesses specifically in our industry, experience such growth and maybe were overwhelmed by the need last year and the frustration that it impacted them in a way where they gave up, right? And not, I don't know if gave up is right, but they became overwhelmed and exhausted. Some people might call it burning out. And with that quote unquote burning out or the exhaustion or whatever you want to call it, it's become harder and harder, and it's not going to be an excuse, right? You're not going to have that ability to say to your customer, well, we're tired from last year. And the strange part is, especially for the businesses that have grown, and I've had this conversation with I have relationships with some of our competitors that we have conversations, some of our suppliers. I'm like, it's great that we're seeing this growth. We had this growth last year, but ultimately the the growth didn't feel good, right? We're not left with that sense of satisfaction, like, oh, our business is growing. It's this. It was more like we were hanging on for dear life, and through that process, we generated more business. Yeah, we all want to generate business, but at what cost, right? And I think of one of the books that I read, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Excuse me. Well, you have that success, that growth in 1 year or 2 years, but can it be sustained over a period of time? And what does that mean for the future, right? We're not sitting here trying to say, okay, well, we'll grow this year and then we're done, right? It's it's infinite. It's a never ending. Maybe your end game is to sell or to pass the company on to someone or whatever the case is. But with that, you have to have some sort of plan, but it's really an ongoing thing. And so the growth, the success, the new business, the opportunities that have presented itself, while they can be a positive, it's often missed that it can be a negative. And a lot of the smaller businesses, even some of the bigger businesses, were not ready for what happened and what was going on. And I've heard some of the owners that I've talked to, some of the managers or leaders at their businesses, saying that, I can't do another year like this. And well, we should hope for another year like this in our industry, right? We all want business, we all want growth, and we certainly. One of the things I say often is it beats the alternative, right? What's the alternative to this is we're trying to figure out where business is coming from. Can our business grow? And we're seeing people go out of business or struggling. None of us want to see that, but it's more in how we prepare for this. And on our end, it's implementing technology and different things along those lines. And we talk about labor shortages and that. Well, how do you compensate for that, right? How do you make sure that even if there's a labor shortage, you can sustain? But I mean, the basics right now is really service. If you are not communicating with your customer, if you're not telling them what's going on, if you're not being transparent, they're going to find someone who is. And it'll be very difficult to get that business back. You might hang on to it for a little bit. I know then I'm sorry, I'll give you a discount, I'll do this, but that's not going to be the solution. It's got to be, how are you going to maintain that business? How are you going to continue to earn their business? So it can't be a one-time thing. It's, and the marketing side, they say quality content delivered consistently, right? So we look at ours, it's quality service, delivered consistently. It can't be a one-time thing. It can't be, oh, I'll make it up to you, I'll do this, right? How many times are you going to discount something or make something up in order to improve on it? So it's very interesting to see where things are going, where trends are happening. But ultimately, if you're in the stone business, if you're in the retail business, actually, if you're in any business and your focus is not on service, then you are going to find things becoming much more challenging this year and probably for the foreseeable future. Service means a lot of things. Like I said, for us, yes, it's the communication with customers that's paramount, but it's also the quality and the consistency of our material. So we're making it easier for them. Everything is about making it easier for our customers so they can make it easier for their customers. And that's what's allowed us to grow. That's what we've seen be successful for some of our authorized dealers, and helped us cultivate some of these relationships that we have, which is very exciting, right? We really enjoy those relationships, and success is great on your own, but really it's a lot more fun when you're growing, especially on the wholesale side here. Although the retail side too, for us, success comes with our growth, but also the growth of our dealers and the growth of their customers. So we enjoy sharing in that success with them and having a positive impact on the stone side, but also in some of the other areas where they may need information or they're struggling. But I mean, again, going back to the stone industry, 57 days until spring. That is less than 2 months. It's conversations I've had here as we're developing processes, and we don't have that slowdown that we used to have in January and February. But there's there's a little bit of a lull, especially on days where it snows or something, and we could take advantage of this time, but it's got to be forward thinking instead of what's happening right now. So for us, and everyone on the team is doing their job, right? We all have that role that we're going to play. But for me, it's looking, planning, yes, over the next, in the short term, maybe month or so, 2 months. For me, I'm looking 6 and 12 months is what I would consider the short term for me. And then, a year to 3 years is kind of that next range. And that's where my mind is. So if you're not planning 57 days in advance, 60 days in advance, you're in for a world of hurt when things happen. And, we work so hard to earn people's business. It doesn't take much to lose it, unfortunately. And that's the reality of it. So, being prepared, and having those conversations now, understanding what projects your customers have coming up, and getting those material orders in. And okay, our industry is not known for planning, right? Contractors, builders, no offense. The reputation is we're not planners, right? And we've seen that firsthand. But really, take a look at it and say, okay, if you know you have a job coming up, and talk to your dealer, talk to whoever you're working with, your supplier, whatever it is, and say, this is what I have going on in March. And then if you can take care of that, come March, you're planning for that job in April, May, or June, and now your material is going to continue to be there. And talk to your dealer, talk to your supplier, your vendor, whoever it is. If there's something with payment where you can work out payment plan, I don't know, but there are solutions that exist, and it will make life easier for everyone. It's got to be done. It's got to be done. And I'm excited to talk more about scaling up and leadership and some of the things that I'm passionate about through the next or through the upcoming podcast that we have. And that ties into to the service end and business development and how you can strategically prepare for what's going on. And it really doesn't matter if you're a one person operation, right? If you're a solopreneur, or if you're a manufacturer, or retail location with, or a retail company with 50 locations, it all applies. And I found that interesting as one of the things as we went through the scaling up process. And you're in this. The Growth Institute there, and you have other businesses from all over the world, which is very cool. I'll say it's very cool to see that other people, no matter where you are across the globe, have the same growth problems. And really, again, I'm excited to go into a little bit more of this. I can go on and on about the Growth Institute and the scaling up program that we went through in the Rockefeller Habits. And it's not like it's over, right? I think our coach Herb on the last call that we had said, this is really just the beginning for you. That was the first step. And so for us, implementing it and carrying it forward is the next part. But 57 days until spring. Keep that in mind as you're making these business decisions, as you're putting things off. And what are you focused on? What are you preparing for in these next 57 days? And I talk about visualization, and I told this story recently in a meeting where when I was 18 years old playing hockey, and I got invited to the Select Festival, which is the top 200 hockey players in the country for our age. And, we had roommates at the time, and I'm laying down before the game, getting ready for a nap. And my roommate says, what do you think about before the game? And I was like, nothing. Like, I don't know. The game isn't for another few hours. I haven't really thought about it. So why? What do you think about? And he said, I play the game in my head from start to finish before I get there. He goes from what does it look like when I show up to the rink? What does it look like for my pregame? What does it look like from the opening face-off to the final buzzer? It was at that point that I realized that from a hockey perspective, I was not on the level I needed to be, right? He went on to play professionally for many, many years in the American League, the NHL, and then over in Europe. And here I am in the stone industry. I have no regrets, but I look back at that often, and I visualize things now, and that's what's helped me in terms of being a leader and personal and professional development. And so in the meeting, I said, stop talking about winter products. Stop talking about salt. Okay, you're selling those, but if you haven't done the work to sell those already, then it's too late, and you're really just hanging on for. It's based on the weather at that point. You should be able to close your eyes and picture what it looks like for your quote unquote opening day, right? If you're in the building materials, landscape materials, whatever it is, you know that when the spring gets here, things get crazy quickly. And so for me, I went through it. I said, I can close my eyes and I can see the sun coming up on that morning. I can see the sun reflecting off the stone outside. I can feel the temperature. I can see our production team going. And those are the things. And we're talking, that was last week, so more than 60 days out. Now, I'm not saying be as fanatical as I am, right? I'm probably a little bit on the extreme side when it comes to the visualization and habits and things like that. But what I'll say is you have to be able to look at it. And if you don't know where you're going, you can't see that vision, how are you going to get there? And my team's got to be sick of hearing me say this. It's proactive versus reactive. Are you sitting there waking up every day and reacting to things? Or are you just going day by day and reacting and waiting for things to happen to you and your business? Or are you waking up every day in control and looking at, okay, this is where we're going? And it doesn't mean that it won't change, but you're looking at where things are going, and that's the plan. And along the way, there's milestones and whatnot, but because there's plenty of stuff that goes on in those 57 days. But when the gates open on that first spring morning and you're ready to go, have you put in the work now that will make you successful when that time comes? And again, hopefully our dealers and people in our industry start to recognize that a little bit more. I know our team is very focused on that, and it's not about being perfect, but it's very important. So, wrapping things up here, excited for 2022. I got COVID, so and some of my colleagues got COVID, so we're all past that now. And you don't want to see anyone get sick, or it's a terrible thing that's going on. But hopefully, it means that we can move past it, and it's not our focus, or have that in the back of our head. Am I going to get sick? So, really excited for what's to come. Excited for the year ahead. Excited for the podcast, and some of the guests we'll have, and. Here's to kicking off 2022, 57 days until spring. If you're in the building materials industry and the landscape side. And if you haven't started preparing, there's no time like the present.